Welcome back to the On Texas Football Special live edition of On Texas Football, a little afternoon Portal Madness update. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel and Jerry Hamilton. Oh, Jerry.
Okay.
We've got one public high to talk about. We'll do that here in just a second. We'll take your questions, comments, super chats. Jump to the front of the line as always. Comings and goings in the portal, the big ticket headline items of today. Relique Brown committed to Texas this morning. Zion Williams, the big LSU defensive lineman, commits to Texas this afternoon. We've had Zeno Mosolo, Jamie French go into the transfer portal. Still got some visits on campus. Had a surprise visitor break this morning. So, Jerry, I will start with you because you've been on the Zion Williams recruitment. I hope everybody's reading the tea leaves that you were dropping on that one. This one gets done. Texas adds some defensive line depth.
Show us the shirt again, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm about to because Chris CB also asked what I had in my mouth. That's the whistle in case the chat gets out of hand, in case I need to throw any flags. So there's that. But yeah, Zion Williams, a guy that I've been covering. CJ saw him as well. Covering Zion since, sophomore year in high school, really. When he popped up, it was going to be a national recruit. We'd heard about him at Lufkin, Texas, out of Lufkin High. Unbelievable frame. I mean, like a totally unbelievable frame. I posted some pictures a couple days ago when we reported that he was going to visit Texas, and it was looking really good. I'll post those high school pictures of him again from a track meet I was at out at Humble High and some other stuff from spring workouts. But he's an over-the-ball player. This is the main thing to know outside of me rambling. He's an over-the-ball player at nose guard. The top nose guard in the portal for Texas was Ian Griffard because he has the starter's experience, played a lot of snaps. But Will Muschamp will be multiple, but he will play a lot of 3-4. So you have to have depth at nose guard. Josiah Sharma is a guy Texas really likes and will be probably second team behind Griffard. I think Zion Williams with that frame, a year of red shirt at LSU, has a chance to develop at that position. But he has one thing you can't teach, and that is massive size frame, all of it with that frame. So he's an over-the-ball player now. He's had a year to go up against other SEC players in practice in a redshirt year. I'm interested from high school to see if he's ready to be that physical football player he has to be in the SEC at this level. I think that's the biggest thing for me with Zion. Everything else is checked. He's super smart kid, a very intelligent kid. I think he fits at Texas extremely well. But the question is going to become, is he going to be physical zero in the SEC?
Yeah, that's again, we started to get to know Zion a little bit, Jerry, obviously when he was at Lufkin. Great personality. Again, I think he's going to be a guy that fits in the locker room on top of that. But I did want to focus on that room just a little bit. You mentioned Josiah Sharma, obviously now the addition of Ian Griffard as well. That's an average of 365 pounds on the interior to play over the nose. You know, we talk about the change from PK to Will Muschamp is more a change in philosophy of styles. It's more of a change of how Texas will play defense, not necessarily, you could go X's and O's, whatever. It's kind of that hit you in the mouth mentality. I think that starts over the ball, and now multiple bodies provide that frame and that size that are required for the zero tech.
CJ, let's go ahead and get to the surprise visitor on campus today. That was Oregon State offensive lineman Dylan Siorsky. We've been waiting to see after Jake Guarnera and Andrew Sprague decided to stay at Michigan. Where was Texas going to go for O-line targets? Joe Brunner from Wisconsin is another name that we're monitoring. Seems like he's leaning Indiana, but Texas was at least taking a swing there. CJ, what's the latest with offensive line recruiting in the portal?
Yeah, no, this is a really interesting name. I know that we had gotten word that there was a visitor on campus, and I know, Jerry, once you got off of Coffee and Football, we kind of sat around and said, who could this possibly be? Then word came that it was Dylan Siorsky coming out of Oregon State. And, I understand it, right? Texas is, trying to find its answers on the offensive line. Talented redshirt freshman this year. He started 6 games, appeared in 8, had taken a visit to Tennessee. Missouri and Arkansas were also reported to be in the mix, or at least receiving SEC visits later on. Well, he instead takes a trip down to Austin and comes sees Texas Thursday morning. He arrived early this morning, and so he's been on campus since then. No immediate word whether or not he's trending to Texas, going to end up a Longhorn. But all in all, a guy with 6'6", 325. He's a big-looking kid. Maybe a little shy of that, but more than anything, starting experience at the powerful 4.5 level, given that it's the Pac-2 now. But point being, someone that the SEC, number of other SEC schools are heavily after as well.
Yeah, by the way, CJ and I had an interesting find to bring back a former Texas player. When we were looking at Oregon State stats, we were looking at tackles, and I was like, dang, like Malik Murphy had some turnovers this year. I wonder how many tackles he might have had. He didn't have any, but Malik Murphy had 10 tackles this year. Jeff, have you ever heard of a quarterback that had 10 tackles in a season?
That's got to be a typo, right?
No, Malik Murphy had he threw 8 or 9 picks this year, had a few fumbles. Other people also fumbled the ball. He had 10 tackles this season as a quarterback. That was just an amazing stat. I'd never seen that before.
It's a rotational linebacker number.
Yeah,
for real. I will look at the Texas numbers and see if I can find an equivalent. But yeah, quarterback with double-digit tackles, that's got to be like an FBS record. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think so. Stephen Houston's like, there's no way, that's insane. That's what we thought. Our reaction was, there's no way that's real.
Man. But Dylan Sikorsky started 6 games for Oregon State this season. Just came off a visit to Tennessee, Arkansas, and Missouri, also showing interest in him. Jerry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, we need to talk about Relique Brown too, but go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, let's go ahead and run down some of the outgoing, some of the portal departures for Texas. Jamie French, Zeno Mozolo. CJ, I think this goes back to something that you said. You've been hammering this home here on the channel, over at ontexasfootball.com, on social media. The roster is going to thin because of the money, because of the rev share money and how it's got to be spread out. Man, you're instead of going to, 105 scholarships and loading it up, probably looking at really like maybe 55 to 60 guys when all is said and done, between like your premium prospects and your frontline guys.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I even had that number even higher, like 65 to 70. And I think originally that makes the most sense. It's a lot to lose 30 plus guys in 1 year and be all right. But look, I think that's ultimately what it wants to become. And Sark mentioned it in Orlando, and I think it kind of went over the heads of a lot of folks. It went over mine originally, but he said, if we go to 105 players, that stretches our dollar very thin. How are you expected to attract that high level main, blue chip level guy if you have to then go out and find 104 other players? So what happens if you then adopt the NFL model? And those folks are kind of hearing that saying, oh God, we're talking about the NFL model again. But the point is, if you condense your roster to about 65, 60 guys in that range, now you're able to pay those guys significantly more per capita, and then fill out the rest of your roster with walk-ons or cheaper developmental guys, like what we saw in Texas's 2026 class, where in November and December, they went after guys with tools, with high upsides, but probably aren't going to cost you a whole lot on top of that. I also think, and I posted a video just very recently on this as well, Jeff, I think the days of high dollar retention battles, I think they're completely done. I think if you're not producing on the field, if you don't have an immediate path for the next year, if you're coming and asking for the moon, you're going to have to find a new place to see the sky, right? So for Texas, I think we're seeing that this year especially, right? Some recent names that just went in. Jamie French was one. There's a number of others that we're still kind of monitoring as well. We said, hey, these guys were a big dent in the Texas salary cap a year ago. Did they make enough of an impact, or are they projected to make enough of an impact next year? And if not, well, you then have to make the difficult decisions to move towards guys who will.
Jerry, this is some stuff we were hearing during the season behind the scenes, that as things were playing out and as Texas was getting ready for what was coming with this rev share and portal cycle, that there were going to be quite a few guys that were going to be gone. And to CJ's point, I think Texas is doing what it can. And I'm not saying all these moves are right, or that they're just knocking it out of the park or whatever, but they want the dollars that they're spending in terms of their rev share money and their overall pot. They want as much of it on the field as possible.
Yeah, I think so. Look, it's going to be so interesting in the future because there's a question in here earlier in the chat that pertains to that, and I started, but we'll get it right now. Is the day and age of high school recruiting these 5-stars over? No, I don't think that's it necessarily, but I think we're going to see smaller high school classes. So I think there's going to be a mix of guys who could be an instant impact contributor for you, and then a few guys you really like as a developmental guy. I do think the days of 25, 30 signees in a high school class for your top programs and maybe mini programs are going to be coming to an end. I do think people are going to start adapting more of that close to NFL model, but not NFL model. Because I think that's the way that people are going to try to maximize their rev share plus the other NIL on top of the rev share. I do think that's what's going to happen, and it's going to be interesting because there's so many pieces of that. Obviously, the chat cares about University of Texas football and how maximizing a Texas roster every year, and that's what we're here to talk about. But also, as a guy that's covered this and always been around it, it's going to be interesting how many guys you go see, CJ, myself, you say that guy's a Division I talent, and he's going to end up starting his career in D2. I think it's going to become more and more is what we're about to see happen. If you're signing smaller high school classes, then you're going to have more guys that would have been lower D1 guys have to start in D2 A-ball, work their way up to AA, get called up to AAA, and the guys who are really good in AA are going to jump past AAA and go right to the majors. I think we're going to start to see kind of a baseball model that we've kind of all talked about being possible through NIL actually become a reality.
Well, and on top of that, Jerry, if you're dispensing talent across so many different other levels as well, that premium talent, your quarterbacks, your offensive line, and your elite edge rushers or interior guys, you got to retain those guys. Those are the big premium positions, Jeff, that I know that we've had a number of conversations about. Yeah. When it comes to Texas, they're in a good spot, right? Both tackles, the quarterback, Colin Simmons, Lance Jackson, all retained. Those guys are going to be the ones that probably benefit the most from the incoming age of portal of retention. Those dollar amounts are going to get significantly higher, and it's going to be very difficult for teams to feel like they are separating from the pack on their offense and defensive lines.
And I'll say this too, for the what's going to be interesting is the 5-stars have always had leverage in recruiting, and as high school classes of size go down, there's going to be even more of a premium with the top programs for those instant impact ability guys. Their NIL leverage is going to keep going up, which is crazy to think. And I was part of this for a long time. Our rankings impact how much they can make out of high school. A ranking, a national ranking, is going to impact in some ways how much they can make from NIL, which is crazy to think about, but that's where we are. So this question real quick. Not calling you out, it's a question. Texas wash confirm? No, we're in the spin cycle. I think we're looking good. We're dry. Clothes are dried. I dried the high shirt. We're not washed. Washed and clean.
Don't make Jerry blow that whistle and keep everybody in line. He's got it, and he's not afraid to use it. We'll keep addressing the day's news. Hey, real quick, Jerry, before we get to some of these supers, let's talk. You wanted to talk about Relique Brown really quick. We talked about him on Coffee and Football this morning. Rod Babers and I did a Relique Brown breakdown here on the channel. What are your thoughts on Texas adding to the running back room?
Yeah, look, I think he's not a 3-down back in the SEC. I think we all know about that. I think what he can really be is very, very good out of the backfield, is a really good fit for Texas in that regard. I don't think I'm not sitting here saying he's Jaden Blue. I think he can give you some big plays out of the backfield like Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue I'm sure CJ saw him in 7-on-7 in high school or in high school football. He was as good a pass catcher naturally as a running back, even though he had a couple of drops. Everybody does. Out of the backfield as I've seen in Texas high school football in a while. He's just really good at it. And he had that explosivity to go with it. I think Relique Brown is going to be very good out of the backfield for Texas. I think his make you miss. I say there's three Y's I look for with running backs to that 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and under 200-pound range. If you're going to play in a major conference, you got to be shifty, you got to be nifty, and you got to have explosivity. And I do think he has all three of those. I think there's an element, and don't start that people are going to start the OL jokes here, but you don't have to block plays perfectly for him to make a big play in the run game. I think he has some shifty, he's got the nifty feet, and he has enough explosivity to where he can make something out of nothing. Sometimes as in the SEC, there's always going to be plays that start with nothing. Can you make something out of it? I don't think he's the only back that we'll see in the portal for Texas, and I don't think he is a 3-down back in the SEC, because I would question if he can stay healthy if he's a number one for an entire season in the SEC. I think he is a tremendous 1B running back that can impact the game in multiple ways.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, Jerry.
Yeah, the ability to maximize runs. As one of my high school football head coach I still used to tell running backs, hey, at some point you got to go be an athlete. It's not going to be block perfect every play. You got to go be an athlete and make something happen. Relique Brown can do that. All right, let's go ahead and get to let's get to some super chats. Big Poke, thank you for the super chat. Any news on Bo Barnes, Jerry?
I don't. Nothing new. Still waiting that. I think Texas and the Barnes are supposed to talk again, but it has not happened. I don't think as of whenever we went on air, but it's expected to happen.
Okay, Buddy Pal Chief, big guy. Thank you for the super chat. We can put 1,000 pounds on the A gaps on the goal line. Yeah, I mean, Jerry, at this point, and CJ, it's about finding. I think Bobby's laid it out. We'll see what happens with Connor Robertson at this point, but your number one priority right now in the portal should be you got to get 2 starting caliber interior offensive linemen to plug in.
Yeah, on the defensive side there with the addition of Zion, I mean, that is correct. You got big bodies now. You got 3 deep at the zero tech position, nose guard position. I do think that's key. And somebody in the chat said replacement for Dylan Berrymont. I don't disagree with that. I think Dylan Berrymont had a little bit of a knee issue senior year, had a couple other things going on. Texas passed on that. They passed on that before Will Muschamp was the defensive coordinator. And I think once Will Muschamp got in, he said, hold on, I got to have more over-the-ball zeros with size in this conference if we're going to play a 3-man front. And so they went and got their top portal guy in Ian Gifford. They have Josiah Sharma, who I think Sharma has a little versatility when you're in a 4-man front, but I think over the ball he can be a problem as he learns and develops. And now you have Zion to go with it. So you're not going to be playing guys out of position over the ball in Muschamp scheme.
Yeah. Real quick, because I know that we've seen some dirty rumors from the opposition coming around recently. There's been some nice Photoshop going around from another website. No.
Every golf ball he hit in Cabo had a hook 'em on it.
I like that.
Yes.
Jerry, thank you for saving that question, because I was so hung up on offensive line. I wasn't even thinking about defensive linemen with Ian Gifford and now Zion Williams being able to put 1,000+ pounds in the A gap. But hey, on that note, though, Jerry, I think it's important to remember, we talked about this. This doesn't impact or shouldn't let anybody read into how Texas feels about Josiah Sharma. They still feel really good about him. Yeah,
I mean, they really like the 2 freshman defensive linemen that you didn't see much of this year, Josiah Sharma and Myron Charles. I'll say this, and Myron Charles, look, when Texas is in a 3-man front, those guys, I think he has a chance to be a really good football player in that scheme. I think he's got scheme versatility, by the way. But a lot of people have asked about that. But real quick, I want to say this. I can also say that Justice Terry, things are still moving very positive on that front. And I don't want people to say, oh, was Justice going to transfer? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there's negotiations still ongoing with a lot of these young kids. And I think things are, in speaking with a very, very good source on that today, I think things are moving in a really good direction there. Just got to get it to the finish line. But I think some of those guys I think Will Muschamp walks into a situation where when he's in a 3-man front, he has got some really good 5s type players, has the size to play a big 3-man front. Because in a 3-man front, a Lance Jackson's not going to be an overhang linebacker. He's going to be a 5 type player. Think about how Michael Williams played at Georgia in their 3-man front. And I think that's kind of the way to think about Lance Jackson. Then when they go to a 4-man front, guys like Myron Charles, Alex January will be playing some 5 now at Texas in a 3-man front. Those guys are also can be really good threes.
Man, CJ, we'll get to the supers, but I know we're in the Texas bubble right now, and everybody wants to hear about Texas, and we're certainly talking about it. But I'm just looking around the country, and Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, and Kirby Smart at Georgia, and Ryan Day at Ohio State. They're, to your point about retention battles, they're having some guys walk that under normal circumstances, absolutely they would want to keep, but just you don't have an infinite amount of money. Nobody does, except, I don't know, maybe Texas Tech does. But I think it's probably benefiting teams like A&M and Tech that have and Indiana that are having a lot of turnover, that, hey, we'll just fill X number of spots, and those spots that we didn't fill, we'll just leave blank and just maybe pick up some guys on the scrap heap later.
This is, again, part of the new world of college football where, teams are no longer relying on that year-to-year development. And they say, hey, we got a hole, we got 2 holes, we got 3 holes, we'll just go fill them from guys out of the portal. And again, that's kind of what we're seeing, maybe not in its entirety right now from Texas, but little bits and chunks of, right? Because, as talented as some of these kids might be, would they participate or contribute immediately next year? Probably not, right? Some of these guys are wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8. We just went an entire year, 2 straight years, really, where only 5 guys at wide receiver saw the field. How does losing offensive linemen 9, 10, and 11 impact your team? More times than not, it wouldn't. So if those are the guys that are taking up a big chunk of your money, I think ultimately it frees you up for an immediate push in 2026. And that's ultimately, to go back to kind of what we had been saying in the middle of December, that makes all the sense. Now, if you do free up this money, if you do free up this cap space, you then have to go win those big recruiting battles that you're in for, right? That would then look like Christian Alliegro. That would look like your Michigan offensive lineman. That would look like a number of guys that, running back specifically, you hadn't landed earlier. So for Texas, it makes sense to free up all this capital, all of this space, but now you got to go out there and make it worth your while. Otherwise, you're looking around saying, well, now the room's really thin and we don't have anything to show for it. Fortunately, the portal is still open for another 8 or 9 days, and decisions can extend beyond that.
Yeah.
We expect a number of visitors to extend even into the weekend as well.
Yeah, I wanted to say that because somebody in the chat, now it made me laugh because the person was like, oh, I can't wait till the 16th. Oh, no, we're not letting you off the hook that easy. This is going on for a while. 11:59 p.m. on the 16th is the last minute you can enter the portal. I actually think teams are going to be adding to the portal in April and May still. And it may be a special teams guy, it may be a third team guy at a position. It may be a straight up developmental young kid that didn't get picked up by anybody in the portal to say, oh, this guy has some upside. So we'll see, but we're not letting you off the hook that easy. It's going beyond. Hey, there's been some questions about Ohio State running back Bo Jackson and the rumors of entering the portal. NIL and RevShare says Bo wants $5 million allegedly. Well, I can absolutely say Bo don't know portal in that case. Bo knows not portal in that case. No running back's getting 5. I don't know if he jumps in, it'll be a lot what he commands, but no.
That's what top of the market quarterbacks are getting. Yeah, so I don't know about that. By the way, I promise I did not enter the transfer portal just now. Pest Control decided to try to bother me during the live stream, so had to. I don't. They're doing exterior work anyway. I don't know why they needed to ring my doorbell and bother me. But anyway, let's get back to these super chats. Longhorn Living says, Jerry, CJ, this is for you because I'm still going to look this up. Can we bring back Relique Murphy to play linebacker?
I'm joking, guys.
I was serious because they did turn the ball over quite a bit. I'm glad I didn't go down a rabbit hole looking for it. So,
all right, but we need to address the Cam Coleman in the chat.
Yep, let's get to it.
Let's go ahead and just put up the super chat. CJ from Mulligan Mully said, "Give us a percentage. What percentage chance is Cam Coleman to sign with Texas?"
I don't know if I have a percentage. We know all the chatter. We hear all the chatter. Let's wait. I'm waiting to see if he steps foot on campus at Alabama.
Yes.
And how long this plays out.
That's exactly where I am as well. Again, I put it up on Texas football earlier. It's always funny how much busier your phone is when things are trending in the right direction. And over the last 2 or 3 hours, phone was pretty busy. And that's even after a number of portal departures. Obviously, there's some movement behind the scenes at Texas as well. And yet folks are, buzzing a little bit, if you will. That doesn't guarantee anything. But it does feel like there's more chatter about Cam Coleman today than there was previously. Now, the one thing I will say is I did also get a text that said, just being aware, if Cam Coleman ends up at Alabama's campus, okay, now you really have to battle again and even harder than what Texas Tech probably offered in regards to playtime and campus environment. Not saying money-wise, but point being, Alabama remains a threat, and Texas is aware of that. But altogether, it's buzzing like a hive over here.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can break down why we all think Texas makes sense for Cam Coleman, but that doesn't. He's still got to announce his decision, and I think the biggest thing is: are you done making visits? Or are you not done making visits? Does the recruitment continue to go on? I do think at this point, look, you visited 3 schools. At this point, you should, or you likely have an idea. You can place those 3 with taking away NIL and everything going on from that standpoint, but you can place the 3 in order of your preference right now. The question is, do you actually let the 4th school enter the fray and visit? So I think he can. I think if he said, "Hey, do you have a 1, 2, and 3?" his answer would be yes, I do.
Pretty much. Jerry, the chat is we started the Cam Coleman conversation. You may need to get that whistle ready because there's just some of y'all need to control yourselves in the chat. Joshy Manning, I'm looking at you, sir. Let's go ahead and get back to the super chats. Clifton Hines says Michael Terry, our big running back for 2026, potentially. You guys were down at the bowl practices in Orlando. What'd you guys think? I know we only get like a little bit of look, but what'd you guys think? How did it look?
We got a little bit of look. Very little.
I'll be generous with a little bit, Jerry.
Yeah. I'll take the Terry question because of the little bit of look. I was focused on him quite a bit. He could be a piece of your answer in 2026. To put all of that responsibility and all of that workload on his shoulders, I think would be, it'd be unfortunate for him in the sense that he had never done it before, right? This is still a position that he's very new to. Yes, he's got the frame, but does he have the physicality between the tackles that matches that frame? I think that's the biggest question. And if you go into a season not knowing what the physicality of your in between the tackles runner is, well, you're already putting yourself into a tough spot. So he could definitely be a piece of this puzzle. Is he going to be the biggest? I don't think so. But again, this is a guy that I think wants to remain at Texas and is buying into how the coaches are kind of pushing his usage for the future to be as well. So, look, we'll see, but not the biggest horse in the stable for next year.
I want to bring this up real quick because we do need to mention this. What about Cal linebacker Cade Uluave, stud player, by the way? He's expected in today for a 2-day visit. He entered the portal with a no contact. We don't think he's going to return to Cal. I mean, I don't know if I sound stupid counting out Tosh Lupoi, but he's not expected to return to Cal. We'll see if there's a visit after Texas. I think he's a damn good football player. I will say this. I think he has sustained an injury late in the year, so he may not be available for spring practice wherever he goes, but I don't really care. He's really good.
Yeah, at this point, it's
all he needs is to pick up a system. If he comes to Texas, all he needs to do is sit in the meetings with Muschamp. The dude's played a lot of football, and he's a hell of a player. He's a future NFL draft pick.
We're going towards the NFL model anyway, where you won't do much hitting in the offseason, so spring ball probably going to matter less and less. We'll see what happens.
Already no spring ball.
Hey, Jeff, somebody followed up, is the Cal linebacker a must-get? I don't say this very often, but with one of my linebacker man crushes, Christian Allegro, going to Ohio State, I do think he is extremely important, and Texas needs to.
Yeah, and this isn't to say Will Muschamp thinks anything negative on Ty Anthony Smith, but Jerry, for depth purposes, to get through an SEC schedule, especially now going to the 9-game schedule, and you still got Ohio State in the non-conference, you need 3 like legit starting level linebackers.
Yeah,
on your depth chart.
Yeah. No, I think so. And look, as it currently stands right now, depending on if Bo Barnes comes back or stays or actually officially goes in the portal, right now you have Ty Anthony Smith. Tyler Atkinson's coming in pretty quickly. And look, that's at your guys who could play. If you're in a 3-4, guys who are going to play inside. Brad Spence is an overhang linebacker. Now, could he play a little bit off the ball? He's done it in the past. But I think ideally, if you get two other guys in the portal, obviously Tyler Atkins is going to play as a freshman. You'd like to have Bo. If Bo Barnes came back and you got two guys in the portal, I think you'd be really set at that position. And those guys can fight it out for playing time. And look, I think that's where kids just want to know where they're at a lot of times is, do I have a chance to compete for a job, whether that's second team or can I push a first team guy? Am I going to have a legitimate chance to compete? That's all sometimes. Hey, by the way, can I mention this? I mentioned this on this morning on Coffee and Football, but one of our Rocky Pour in the chats and on TexasFootball.com sent this hat.
That's awesome.
High Go Corn Dog Company. Bourbon Leather is the company. Bourbon Leather, specialized hats. I just want to say thanks again. I love the hat. He was supposed to be CJ one, but he thinks it'll get dirty thrown on the floor.
I will not throw it. Rocky, we've been in contact, so I'm excited for what might come. But I won't throw it, I promise.
He's going to make Jeff an old high school hat.
Yeah, Rocky P, I need to get you my address. Sorry, my ADHD kicked in. I forgot it. So, Clayton Vaughn, I saw that you had a super chat, and I believe your question was about the offensive line plan. Any news on Texas O-line plan? Appreciate y'all's work. Jerry, I think we're starting to see, I guess this is phase 2 of O-line recruiting.
That's fair to say. Yeah. So, obviously, Sikorsky on campus as a guard. I think we're going to see a couple other guys on campus. So I can give an update here. I know Texas has reached out to the Zalance Hurd party circle, the Tennessee left tackle transfer. That one's not going to materialize because Zalance Hurd wants to play left tackle. He's been playing left tackle. He doesn't want to play right. He's going to go somewhere. He's going to play left tackle. Obviously, we expect Trevor Gooseby back. So no visits. There's not going to be a visit take place as of right now, and one's not expected. I think Miami's all over him as a left tackle, and Kentucky and LSU potentially is talking, and a couple others. But he wants to play left tackle and continue that development for the NFL.
And to CJ's point about premium positions, left tackle means left tackle money, and you've already got a lot tied up in Trevor Gooseby right now for Texas. Juan Garza, thank you for the super chat. Will Texas be interested in Walter Mathis since he went to the portal?
It's a good question. I think the kid's tremendous prospect. I think he can play in the NFL one day. I went to see him in Savannah. I mean, otherworldly natural strength, and he's worked really hard at it too. I think he had 9, 10, 11, 12 tackles at LSU this year in a reserve role. I think he flashed a lot there. The whole question there with a guy like that, well, one is what's your ask when you jump in the portal? If you have 9, 10, 11 tackles by your name, what's your ask? But two is it a scheme fit? Georgia really liked him out of high school, as they should. I mean, that thing ended up being LSU over Miami, Auburn. Texas tried to get in, but they were a little late getting into that party. Is he when you're in a 3-4, is he a 3-4 guy? Because he's not a lengthy guy necessarily. 6'2", 6'2 and a quarter. It's gonna be a hell of a player, but I think he's better in a 4-man front as a penetrating, disruptive 3.
Thank you for that, Jerry. Jeff Davis says, really wish Sark would give Mason Baker from San Diego State under the radar, but huge, talented guard with quick feet. Y'all should take a look at him, people mover. I think, CJ, your prereq, I believe he's coming off an ankle injury. So, again, that would be one of your red flags. No portal transfers on the offensive line coming off injury.
Yeah, that is. And again, that's unfortunate because Jerry, we were on a call really the last couple of days going through a list of who could be a fit for Texas on the offensive line. And that was a name that we stumbled across saying, hey, he looks good. But to your point, Jeff, that's one of those things is if you don't want to go in with question marks or unknowns, injuries, especially large injuries, are one of those things that you got to be sure of if you're going to take a guy coming off of an injury, especially on the offensive line. So that's quite one of those, points of emphasis for me. I don't know if that's how the staff is evaluating, but ultimately I would imagine it's pretty universal, especially if you're going to be protecting Arch Manning.
No doubt. AJJ1213, thank you for the super chat. I watched Relique Brown play in high school. One word, shifty. Jerry, again, I looked at his PFF numbers. We talked about the lack of explosiveness with the Texas run game last year. 31 rushing attempts of his went for 10 or more yards last year. That's just some nice juice that Texas just didn't have in the run game last year.
Somebody asked earlier in the chat, and I totally forgot to answer the question. How did he do against TCU? Against TCU, for what it's worth, 21 carries, 134 yards, 6.4 a pop, 9 receptions, 50 yards in that game. So he touched it 30 times for 184 in that game. His biggest game, obviously, was Colorado, 22 for 255, a catch for 33, 288 total yards, all-purpose yards, 2 touchdowns. Common opponent at Mississippi State, that loss for Arizona State, 18 carries for 110 in that game. So he had a pretty good game against Mississippi State in that loss, in which Sam Leavitt had the worst game of his career.
For whatever it's worth, also, we all saw how good that Texas Tech defensive front was. 19 for 69, 3.6 per carry and a touchdown against Texas Tech. So not eye-popping numbers, but more productive than a lot of backs have been against Texas Tech this year. Rocky P, thank you for the super chat. He said, CJ back from the playground. Do we have any interest in LSU defensive back DJ Chester? Any word on the Cal linebacker visit today? We've already talked about Kato Olave. DJ Chester, any interest there?
That's not a name I've heard, but I will say anytime the site goes down over at OTF, which has been happening because the community has been expanding so rapidly, and we're all thankful for that. But that's my time to go outside. So I got a little park, a little baseball field next to me. That's where I take my walks, just to touch grass once or twice a day, because I haven't been able to do a whole lot of that recently. But Cal linebacker visit expected on campus today. He should be getting around campus now, I would say, but we'll provide an update at the time. I don't know a lot about DJ Chester, I'll be honest, but Texas in its secondary room at the moment, outside of maybe adding another safety with Edwin Joseph potentially, I think they're pretty happy with what that room and what that depth is looking like.
Exactly. Zachary Mead, thank you for the super chat. How many more players do y'all think will enter the portal from Texas? How many more commits do y'all think we could have at the end of the portal? Both those questions, Jerry, this isn't a cop-out answer. It's very much TBD at this point because one of those could affect the other.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible for sure. I think with the portal signees, I think we're still thinking 16, 18 for Texas. I think we're thinking in that area. That doesn't mean you couldn't add somebody in April and May as a special teams player, right? Or a third strings at a position coming out of spring maybe you need. So that number could creep a little bit higher by 2 or 3 if you absolutely need them. But the number we've been told continuously to expect is between 16 and 18. And as far as guys leaving, I mean, that's a hard thing to say right now, CJ, for me.
Yeah, they're at 21 right now.
21, 22, yeah.
I think it could still – I mean, the mid-20s is certainly in the realm of possibilities. There's still some guys that going into the bowl game sat there and said, hey, this makes like a lot of sense. We've kind of heard some rumors, but of course that job now goes to retention and making sure that what your roster wants to look like in 2026, they get finalized today, tomorrow, and the rest of this week.
All right. Hey, CJ, I know you've got to run here in a couple minutes. Before you do, anything else, whether it's news, notes, nuggets, thoughts, anything else you want to add here before you got to take off?
No, I think, again, this portal has kind of changed my perspective on roster construction in college football, and I think it's changing a lot of the old ways that we have become to know how teams are constructing rosters. So, it certainly hurts. And I think that's one of the worst parts about this roster, the worst part about this era of college football is very rarely are you getting the guys that came in kind of under the radar, worked their way in and earned a spot and then became stars. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of that moving forward. And I think that sucks, but hey, hopefully I'm wrong on that, but the instant gratification and the need to win immediately, that's where we're at. The portal's changed that for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're a blue blood, doesn't matter if you've been Indiana, right? You have the opportunity now to be immediately competitive, and that's basically how things are now. No more roster construction and needing years to develop guys. It's all about winning now. So that's kind of the twofold spot. But Texas, I think in my eyes, and I've talked about it several times, their roster movement so far points towards getting all of its top end money for guys on the field, which sign me up for. That's that.
Yeah. Thanks, CJ. So CJ's going to hang out for a little bit longer, and he will bounce at some point. Jerry, I think to CJ's point, and I saw somebody in the chat mention, hey, Sark's about to have a 65-person roster. I think a lot of people are, and in the age of rev share where everybody's got money. Jerry, I was just taking a look just for the sake of comparing where we were then to where we are now. Like, I'm looking at Alabama's 2015 roster, right? Mm-hmm. Your running back depth that year was Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, and Damian Harris. You look on the offensive line, you had guys like Lester Cotton, Dallas Warmack, Bradley Bozeman. Those guys were backups. I just don't think, for at least for a while, until we see some kind of guardrails in place, we've probably seen the last of those rosters like Nick Saban stacked up about a decade ago.
100%. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to be sustainable, because I think you're going to have a tough time keeping your depth at offensive line and defensive line. That's where I think it's really going to be difficult, because now with rev share, Wake Forest, Maryland, throw out your school that is a power four but below the top tier guys. They now have the rev share to compete for your backups and get your backups to leave and come be a starter at their place. I think that's going to be the tough thing in terms of depth, and that depth of talent will show up over time with some universities like that. And what you're saying, Jeff, I also think it's going to be interesting, guys. One thing that we have time to talk about this all spring, but Kirk Cignetti's comments on having 90-minute practices, as we go to smaller rosters, you don't have the depth to have these wear and tear practices.
Yeah. You're
going to be having shorter practices on the daily after 2 days, of course, or after your August, not 2 days, but after your August practices.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be less contact in shorter practices.
No.
That's one thing moving forward that'll be interesting to hear college coaches talk about, I think, in the next few years.
No doubt.
I agree. All right. I got to head out, guys.
Yep. All right, CJ, thank you for the time and the knowledge and expertise. Jerry, let's kind of roll through some of these super chats before we get out of here. Tyler S. Pates, thank you for the super chat. Said, if we don't land a big splash with the offensive line in the portal, are we setting up Brown to have a similar season to Wisner? Jerry, I don't even think it's about you can add like the number one guard in the portal, and I don't know if anybody will consider it a splash, because adding guards is just not a sexy position. But I don't think it's about necessarily a big splash. You just got to it's about finding quality bodies at this point.
Yeah, and I want to say this to that the question is, like, so Trey Wisner played 9 games against P4s and he had 600 yards, all right? If he had played the San Jose State, Sam Houston State, UTEPs, I mean, he's just going to rush for 900 yards. So he still would have been close to 1,000 yards in 12 games, which he didn't have 1,000 yards in 12 games last year, 2 years ago. So I think, look, I think that Relique Brown is going to be a weapon for Texas more than a runner. I think you're going to have more of a pass game to the running backs out of the backfield with Relique Brown. You could line him up in bunch sets. You can do a lot of different things with him. I hope Brown has a Trey Wisner season if Wisner played 12 games this year and played against everybody, because I think that's an 850, 900-yard season. I think if Relique Brown comes into the SEC and puts up 800-900 yards with 300 yards receiving, he's had a hell of a year.
I agree, because we'll see who else they add, but he's going to be a piece. Jerry, I think you even said this on Coffee and Football this morning. He'll be a piece of your run game in 26, but I don't think he's going to be – it's not going to be all on his shoulders. It'll be the load will be divvied up, and Derek Cooper's going to have some of that to some extent, and hopefully through the season we see it grow. McCluskey, thank you for the super chat. Can you talk through what these visits are like? What happens while on campus? What do players look for? What's the staff say? How do schools differ? Jerry, I think it's like it's set up to potentially be like a normal official visit, except it's a lot more compressed and a lot less of the BS.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, Lagway to Baylor, that was an easy call. Dad played there. I think that's a great spot for DJ Lagway. He's got to kind of hit a reset, I think. For the official visits, it's a lot tougher to pin down and answer this because when a high school kid visits, you know he's going to be on campus 48 hours because that's what the NCAA allows. So you can literally plan out to the hour these visits. Some of these portal visitors have been one day. Some guys have come back for the second day. Some guys still get on the golf cart and get the campus tour if they're there 2 days. Guys that are here at a visit one day may not really get that full visit feel. But that's not really what they're there for. You're not impressing these guys with a campus or anything like that. Because somebody asked this morning, is Austin not an appeal for these guys? That's high school recruiting where somebody's going to spend 4 or 5 years of their life potentially. In the portal, you're talking about being somewhere for 10 months, 11 months. So these guys are all about business. The most important thing, I believe, on portal visits, meeting with position coach, meeting with coordinator, meeting with head coach. Obviously, the NIL part's a huge piece of that. But I think it is straight about the football or the basketball or whatever sport you're visiting. It is just straight over tackle. That's what this is about because these guys, and a lot of times, the guys that Texas is going after on this initial run through the portal, those guys are they're going to be in their final year of college football, with the exception of a couple, like a Jaden Woods, who Texas really wanted, had 2 years left. Those are few and far between. But most of these guys are 1 year and off to the NFL. So it's straight over tackle. We're all about football here. A few guys make it the campus tour if they're there 2 days, but if somebody's not there 2 days, there's not enough time for everything.
100%. Clayton Vaughn with another super chat. Thank you. Will there be an on Texas staff mayo dog eating contest if we sign Cam Coleman? Jerry can do that solo.
I'm just here to tell you, if Cam Coleman goes to Texas, I don't know. It's going to be a crazy live stream. I'll give you all that.
I thought you were going to make a guarantee like that Michigan message board poster did if Sprague and Guarnera had gone.
Well, is tomorrow National Bubble Bath Day? Should I do coffee and football from a bubble bath?
You should go old school Derek Evans style, Jerry. Maybe just do it in the hot tub.
In the hot tub?
Yeah. Well, we'll figure out some way. It's Friday. Let's get crazy. Random one. Thank you for the super chat. Does Texas have interest in Peak from NC State? Ja'Carrius Peak, Jerry. I think that's another thing. Got tackles in the portal are going because they want to be left tackles.
That's the whole key. Are you going to be who's willing to play right tackle? That's the whole key for Texas right now. Are you willing to play right tackle? We think left tackle's taken care of.
Al Davis 16S, thank you for the super chat. Portal closes on 1/16, correct? So players playing in the national championship would have to portal before the game. Are teams still playing, negotiating retention right now? If you're in the national championship game, you get a 5-day window after your season ends. You get a 5-day extension to handle your portal business.
Yeah, exactly.
Boston Connor, say we get 1 or even 2 of Coleman or Richardson. Does Wingo stay? How close are him, Gooseby, and Canoe to returning?
Look, Canoe, we fully expect to return. Wingo, things are very much going on that path. I can say Justice Terry, his is going on that same path. Gooseby, I think we'd be surprised if he didn't right now. Look, I mean, Texas is, Jamie French to the portal today. So Parker Livingston, DeAndre Moore, there is room for 2 wide receivers. I would say that.
100%. W. Carroll, how many carries will Brown get per conference game? I couldn't tell you right now what that number is going to be, but with him, it's not so much the carries, it's the touches. It's more the Jaden Blue thing. Like, if he gets 6 carries, but he's got 10 targets and turned those 10 targets into 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown, I really don't care how many carries he's got at that point.
I think it's about touches with him. I agree. I think if you're in the 16, 17 neighborhood of touches, you're probably going to have maximized him through the run and pass game. I mean, when you look at last year, Trey Wisner in conference play, right? We won't talk about the Florida game. We'll leave that in the back view mirror with poop on the street. But let's talk about the other games. against Oklahoma, obviously his favorite team to play. One, a second favorite team to play, had 27 touches. But then you go to Kentucky, had 14. Mississippi State, 6 catches, 12 carries, 18. Vanderbilt, 18 carries, 2 receptions, 20. UGA actually had 9 for 37, but he had 11 touches total because that's when there was an outright refusal to run the football. Arkansas, 15, and then A&M, he had 21 touches. So I think if you have a mix of backs at Texas and you're possessing the football a little bit, then I think if you're in that 15, 16, 17, 18 touch neighborhood with Relique Brown, considering 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6 of those are out of the backfield, I think that's going to be a pretty decent thing to look at right now.
And no matter who the second portal back you take is, and we'll see what the offensive line takes are, I've still got to see Sark mix it up in the run game a little bit, be a little more diverse, not so wide zone dependent, especially that Kirby Smart defense. When teams have stopped the wide zone run game the last 2 years, Texas really had a counter punch, so it's in personnel, but I think it's in scheme also. D. Leary 97, thank you for the super chat. Between the Oregon State interior offensive lineman and the Minnesota interior offensive lineman we reportedly have had contact with, they combined for 9 starts last season. Are they depth pieces or are things that bleak?
I think, look, you gotta have competition. You gotta have competition. We expect Texas to take at least three linemen in the portal. So I would say the biggest question for me is there does Texas get a right tackle? And then if that happens, Brandon Baker would move into a guard spot. Well, that takes away one starting spot for sure at guard. That's kind of the first piece for me before we start talking about, hey, what can this guy do? Who's going to challenge for this position? I think there's going to be healthy competition at the end of the day once we look back on all this.
All right, then Katie 35, I'm the best. Jerry, CJ had to roll, but Jerry is very much still here. What about the right guard Poku from East Carolina, big 6'6", 328?
Yeah, haven't heard that name yet. That doesn't mean anything, but he is big. I think he is a talented big guy. He's got really good feet. So we'll have to see. I have not heard that yet.
I thought he had already committed somewhere, but maybe that was just visits he was setting up at some point. It's hard to keep track.
I know that one of their tackles committed to NC State already.
Maybe that's what I was thinking about. But yeah, when there's I think Jerry, as of close of business last night, there were, I think, 9,700 players in the transfer portal. So it's it all starts to run together at some point.
There's been good players going today, and I think we're going to see that for a couple more 3 days. Some really good players go in the portal. I mean, I actually think there's more that have continuously gone in than what I thought there would be. Honestly, it's been interesting to follow, and we're not done. I still think there are going to be handful, 6, 7 bigger names that still jump in.
Yeah, sorry, I was checking on something on Emmanuel Poku. My bad. Jerry, any final thoughts before we sign off here?
No, I mean, look, it's we're going to monitor Kedu Luave on campus. Somebody asked about him in BYU earlier. He is from Harriman, Utah. We'll see if what competition emerges for Texas there. It's obvious that you would think BYU's trying to make a move there. Utah's probably trying, but BYU obviously would be the one, but he did grow up in Harriman, Utah there. We're watching that. We expect a number of visitors this weekend at various positions, including offensive line. Wendell Gregory, the edge, in the portal from Oklahoma State, I believe is scheduled to be in this weekend. 27 tackles, 4 sacks. Last year, he's originally out of Marietta Walton High School in the Atlanta area, signed with South Carolina, transferred to Oak State. What's his NIL ask going to be for a guy that had 4 sacks? That's always the question. But I think we're going to see a number of guys show up on campus this weekend in Austin.
All right. I want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, you can get over to ontexasfootball.com, take advantage of our Portal Madness special. Your first month of access over to ontexasfootball.com for just $1. Any information as we get it, as we are able to publish it, we're doing it there. We can only cover so much here on the channel, but everything we get is posted over on TexasFootball.com. You can get over there. Again, your first month of access for just $1. The community is growing quickly. The chats have been lively. The board has been thriving. So If you've been thinking about checking it out, come on over. Again, $1 for your first month of access over to ontexasfootball.com. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the On Texas Football YouTube channel if you haven't. That way, whenever we go live, like we did just now for this live stream, you get notified and you'll be able to watch and or participate. Jerry, thanks for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. We will be back later tonight around 7:15-ish for our Thursday night live stream. Rod Babers will be leading the charge on that. Marcus Myers also will be participating. Jerry, are you going to have the whistle and the high shirt on tonight's live stream, or you've got other business to conduct?
I don't know. Let's hope our next live streams have some joy mode in them.
All right. For Jerry and his whistle and his high shirt, and for Matthew behind the scenes producing it, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.